Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another week, another 2 rounds in the Scientists Reverse Grid Racing League Tier 1 action tonight, coming to you from Austria and Hungary in this league. My name is Chatty Duck. I will be your main commentator tonight, and joining me once again in the booth is FIFA Geek, or as he's now known, just Peter. So, Pete, how's it going tonight?
Yeah, really well. Really well, Chatty Duck. I'm really looking forward to two very different tracks here. Obviously, Austria very fast-paced, Hungary very technical. So, really looking forward to some good racing going into the last few rounds of the championship. Obviously, these being round 17 and 18. So, just having a look at the standings. Our runaway leader is still our runaway leader, Royal Harvey, with a 41 point advantage now, so slightly lower than last week, where he was 50 points ahead, with Slayer in second. Scientist, obviously wasn't here last week, but I'm sure will be eager to get back his second place from Slayer, only 16 points behind on 138. We've got a very good battle shaping up for fourth between J Sarge, Infamous and Ballux, who are on 112, 111 and 107 points respectively. As well as a very good battle for seventh, which would be Aces versus Kings, Lando and Nick, who was our race winner last week, if I remember correctly, who are on 96 points, 94 and 91 respectively. So yeah, looking forward to some good racing tonight, and can't wait to actually get started with the races. Have you got any thoughts on today's races? How you think they might go, mate?
Well, I know that Austria is a very popular track with drivers for its high-speed nature. It's quite a short track. Just to mention, Royal Harvey's just said I think I got the title wrong. It looks like I have, although I'm pretty sure that I did update the title of this video to be Scientist Reverse Grid Racing League, all that good stuff, but for some reason it's stuck with the title from my previous video, which I don't quite understand. But don't worry guys, if you're joining, this is Scientist Reverse Grid Racing League Tier 1 action tonight from Austria and Hungary. Yeah, so Austria, very popular track, very good for overtaking. Traditionally quite a power track with 2 or 3 long high speed straights with DRS sections as well. So yeah, a great track. And also the Hungaroring, one of the classic Formula 1 tracks that's been around for 30 odd years now, but very difficult to overtake around there. Sort of Monaco without the barriers, it's often referred to as. And another just legendary Formula 1 track, you would have to say.
Definitely, yeah. As you were saying, Austria being one of the shortest tracks on the calendar, it's actually the fourth shortest, with a total track length of 4.318 kilometers, just over 2.5 miles. This year sees what would be the 39th Austrian Grand Prix, with 33 of them having been held at what is now known as the Red Bull Ring. Has obviously taken several different names over the past, including the Australing and the A1 Ring back in the 90s when it was raced between 97 and 2003. So this is actually the track with the least amount of turns in the entire F1 calendar, only 10 turns, and one of them you can't really consider a turn. Turn 2 going into turn 3 at the top of sector 1. So yeah, we've had some quite legendary battles in this on this track, even though like in the last few years. I mean, if we look at this last year, 2020, it was the scene of the 4-way final lap battle between Lando Norris, Sergio Perez, Lance Stroll and Daniel Ricciardo. Perez 9 seconds ahead with 1 lap to go, but a broken wing and Norris pipping him, Stroll nearly pipping him to the finish line. Last lap collision between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg back in 2016, which dropped Rosberg from first to fourth and giving Lewis Hamilton his first ever win at the Red Bull Ring. Obviously, we can't forget about the 2019 race between where Max Verstappen did such an amazing job catching up with Charles Leclerc, and on the entrance to turn 3, both made contact, and it took the stewards nearly 3 hours post-race to actually decide who the winner was. Ultimately, obviously decided in Max Verstappen. So, looking forward to some really good racing. I'm sure turn 3 is going to be where a good amount of contact is going to happen. So, really looking forward to seeing how the drivers step their cars up, getting ready to take on the Red Bull Ring.
Yes, and also lap 1 or turn 1 is going to be quite a challenge for the drivers, because it's a very tight apex through there, and there's not really too much runoff on the outside. Well, there is runoff, but you can't use all of it, otherwise you'll get a warning for track extending. So that's going to be interesting to see how the drivers negotiate that as well while they're jostling for positions. And yeah, turn 3, as you said, probably going to be the main overtaking point that we see tonight. Another just interesting note, I guess, to make about the Austrian Grand Prix circuit as the formation lap gets underway is that it was one of a few tracks last year to host 2 Grand Prix, because it hosted obviously the Austrian Grand Prix and then the Styrian Grand Prix a week later, and it was also the first round of the memorable 2020 Formula 1 season. So now we are underway with the formation lap, and we've got a front row of Mumram and Royal Harvey, who were 2 drivers who gambled on the intermediate tyres at Singapore last week, for those that can remember that. It was raining and the track was getting slippery, but it just wasn't wet enough for that decision to pay dividends. But as a result, they get a front row seat for this Grand Prix that we are watching right now.
I'm sure our championship leader will be very happy with that. His nearest rival being the Slayer, who started 5 places below him in 7th. And also a very good chance for Jay Sarge to make up points on Scientist, obviously having not raced last week, starting in 17th today. So this definitely think we're going to see some interesting battles and hopefully progression from the likes of Scientist, Aces, Infamous and Lando to challenge these guys and bring it in for a very good, who knows, maybe 4-way final lap battle. We'll see. But yeah, it should be. Definitely think we've got some action cut out for today. Going to hand back over to you now, mate, for the race start. As the drivers head towards the grid.
Thanks, Pete. And just to say as well, it's good to see Scientist back on the grid. He wasn't racing last week, but he is back tonight. So good to have him back, starting down in P17. So he's got a lot to do, alongside his teammate Aces as well in P16. So now we're seeing the cars forming up on the starting grid for the Austrian Grand Prix. We've got beautiful conditions for this race, sunny skies, and hopefully a bright and exciting race to follow. As the lights are coming on now for the start of the race, Mumram, starting from pole, will be looking to get a good start, and we are underway in Austria. And there's a racing point there at the back, looking to get a good start. I think Jay Sarge may have lost a piece of his front wing already, but a good start actually from both Red Bulls. John Banter went around the outside of Royal Harvey coming into turn 1. He's moved up into 2nd place. Mumram got an absolutely fantastic start, pulling away. But it is Mumram from John Banter, and a Haas there going up the inside of Royal Harvey. Is that Jay Sarge, in fact? Maybe Jay Sarge wasn't the Haas involved in that front wing calamity before the first corner, but for the time being, Royal Harvey has held on to 3rd place, but a great start for the Red Bull team.
Our biggest movers so far, we've got Scientist building up 6 places from his original start in the 17th, just outside the points 11th. Mosha, having started in 4th, all the way back down to 12th, with Knucklehead Tom's coming out the 3rd corner. Infamous has already picked up a 5-second penalty for exceeding track limits.
And up at the front,
And
as we
right
come towards the end
outside.
of lap 1, we've got Royal Harvey closing in on John Banter as the leaderboard has its usual early race meltdown and the positions are all over the place, but Royal Harvey is still in P3, closing in on John Banter as we start lap 2, not lap 3, and he doesn't have DRS either as a result of that, but he does have a very good exit off of turn 3, although probably still a bit too far back to be making a move on John Banter for the moment.
Very patient driving there from Royal Harvey. Some very patient driving there.
Looks like we've had a pit stop already, Pete, towards the back of the field.
We have, yeah, Ryan pitted out of, I think it was 8th position, presumably front wing damage. Maybe he was probably the Haas that had problems going into the first corner, I think. Yeah, he's already pitted for a new front wing. Currently watching the battle between Aces and Infamous, who are very close to each other in the championship, currently battling for 40s and 50s respectively. Got Infamous right on. Had Infamous thought he was right on the back, but apparently he's now second behind. Right now. Aces is, however, catching up to Desert and Mosha. Desert right around the inside of Mosha. It's turn 3. And he makes the move stick, moving up to 12th place. Ace is coming right onto Mosha as well.
We've also got a three-way battle for the lead going on between the two Red Bulls and the Renault of Royal Harvey. I would expect Royal Harvey, to be perfectly honest, to have a bit more pace than the two guys ahead of him, just because of how well he's doing in the championship, and having seen Harvey race before, he's one of the quickest drivers on the grid. But I think that at the moment he's suffering a bit, although he has got alongside John Banter now on the pit straight, and he does take P2 away. Oh, and then very late braking from John Banter down the inside, and contact with Royal Harvey, and that has spun round John Banter, and he is dropping like a stone through the field, re-emerging in 12th place, but he's going to probably lose more positions now up towards turn 3. He's already lost out to Aces, and Mosha is right on the scene as well. And also, who is that? Was that Infamous? Infamous making a move.
John Banter, looking at his front wing, it appears he didn't pick up any damage from that collision, so he's still got a chance to get back into the racing very competitively. I want to move to the battle for 4th between Chappie and Jay Sarge.
Yeah, I just switched to that as well at pretty much the same time as you said that, and we just seen Chappie go ahead of Jay Sarge. Jay Sarge looking like he's trying to enter the pits with the line that he took into the second to last corner, and yep, he is pitting.
So we've got now Nick is going to be right behind his teammate, well, right behind 1.2 seconds behind his teammate, Ferrari 4-5. Nick, as we saw last week, a very tactful, very fast driver. Will he be able to close the gap to Chappie? We will see.
Royal Harvey is alongside Mumram in the braking zone of turn 3, and coming out of that corner he's going to have the DRS, and we will see him now pull ahead of the second Red Bull that he has come across this afternoon. So Royal Harvey takes the lead of the Austrian Grand Prix on lap 5, and now Ballux is closing in on Mumram for second position.
An interesting battle going on for 7th between Scientist and Lando, who come through turn 6 into turn 7 in the final sector. Lando right on the back, going for the undercut on Scientist. It wasn't close enough. Scientist got a really good exit out of turn 7. Onto the home straight. Lando will get the DRS. It should be relatively easy for him. G-Mac as well, catching up to Lando, just 3 tenths behind him. Lando unable to make the move into turn 1 now as we head up towards turns 2 and 3. DRS wide open for Lando, and alongside Cyprus, and it should be a pretty ABC move for Lando up into 7th position. Scientist going for the undercut. Is he going to get it? With DRS wide open. Down into turn 4. Scientist alongside Lando. Brilliant driving by the two to avoid contact. Lando still with the lead over Scientist on the inside into turn 6.
Wow, what a great sequence and battling that was between those two. Scientists bravely sticking it in there, trying to hold on to that position as much as he could, but in the end Lando was able to move up a position as the Slayer now pits from 6th position. He was on the medium tyres, so that's quite an early stop for him. We're seeing a bit of a train forming up behind Mumram in 2nd place. Ballux and the two Ferraris of Chappie and Nick are closing in on Mumram for 2nd position, as Royal Harvey's lead is now just over a second, so he's got out of DRS range. And well, this is surely an opportunity for Ballux now that Mumram doesn't have DRS, and Ballux going down the inside here into turn 4, and he moves up onto 2nd. Mumram potentially having a look to try and get back, but no, Ballux has secured that, and Nick has overtaken his teammate for P4, so Nick on a bit of a charge as well in these early stages.
Mumram picking up a 3-second penalty for exceeding track limit. Currently watching the battle for 8th position. Desert Rat has got GMAC and Aces within 7/10 of him. Obviously both are going to get DRS. Desert Rat will be picking it up on Scientist pits, so Scientist pits, but all three will have DRS coming down the home straight.
We've got Nick overtaking Mumram for P3. While you were talking there, Nick alongside going into turn 3 with the DRS, and Mumram getting quite racy on the outside, but he had to give way there. And Nick up into a podium position. Next up in this train to challenge Mumram is Chappie in the 2nd Ferrari.
Interesting move going on between 8th and 9th Aces versus GMAC. Aces getting past GMAC on the inside of turn 3, but GMAC got a really good undercut, however wasn't able to make it pay going into turn 4, and GMAC is down to 9th. Aces up to 8th, Aces up to 7th in that battle I was talking about. Looks like Chappie will be the next one to get Mumram. Might it be time for Mumram to switch to the medium compound, who seems to be dropping a lot of places to those around him now, obviously having gone through first.
We've got Ballux in the pits. Ballux was in 2nd place, and he is now pitting for a fresh set of tyres. And actually, before he came in, he was closing the gap slightly on Royal Harvey in 1st place. So Harvey not having it all his own way here in this Grand Prix. We thought that for him starting in 2nd place, he'd be able to assert himself on the field and take the lead and build a gap, but that's not proving to be the case so far. He's 1.5 seconds ahead of Nick, and that gap is coming down as well, although Nick and Chappie do both have penalties. And I'll just check whether that's a 3-second penalty. Yes, for corner cutting. And we've got a few drivers further back with 6 seconds of penalties as well as we approach the halfway stage in this race.
I think one of the things about this track is what I find, it's so hard to actually gain time because you are pretty much flat out. Oh, something interesting, both of the Ferraris coming in at the same time. This is going to be
they're going to be double stacked. That's not great team management there. This is going to cost Chappie a lot of time. But all of the leaders have pretty much pitted now. Royal Harvey has maintained his advantage over Nick. Mumram came in as well. But yeah, Chappie, he's now fallen back behind the Red Bull of Mumram. So, and he's quite a few seconds behind as well. And Jay Sargent, the Slayer, also.
He's essentially lost 5 places there because he was right on the back of Nick coming in there, maybe a second separate, so Nick would theoretically should have fallen back into 7th, but now down in 10th and has given himself a lot of work to do to try and catch up those places.
Royal Harvey has just overtaken Mushroom for 3rd place. He emerged out of the pits just behind the racing point and was able to take that place away pretty quickly. Serious Mushroom, one of only 3 drivers at the front who have yet to pit, although both Lando and Aces are now in the pits to change off of their soft tyres, and actually Mushroom coming in also, and he's going to be switching from the mediums to the softs, I would imagine. And interestingly, Pete, so far it looks as though the stint length between the softs and the mediums have been fairly similar, sort of maybe 8 laps or 9 laps on the softs to then do a similar length of stint on the medium, because usually you'd expect the softs to not be as durable around these tracks.
I mean, yeah, obviously I think where this track has so many fewer corners than your typical F1 track, tyre deck is a lot more manageable because it's more flat out, isn't it? So you've got less braking points, less chance of your tyre spotting if you lock up, and they've remained competitive. So I definitely think those now changing onto the softs, i.e. Kuna, GMAC, who are in 9th and 12th, are going to have some superior pace. So I don't know why. I think with the lighter fuel load, I think.
Oh, and contact D Kuna and John Banter going into, what is that, turn 5, I think. D Kuna was on the outside and there was contact with the Red Bull, and John Banter went spinning round, so he's dropped back a few more places now.
I thought there had been a collision between Moshe there, but no. Sorry, that's what I saw. McLaren on for a good spin.
Like I said earlier, as this race is really rolling along, we're on to lap 12 already, only 6 to go, but Royal Harvey being well and truly closed up to now by Nick in the Ferrari. That gap is 0.3 of a second, and Nick getting very close into the braking zone of turn 4. He does have DRS.
Sorry to interrupt you, Nev. I want to concentrate on the battle going on for 5th. 3 abreast going into turn 4 between J Sarge, Lando and Moran. Was amazing. None of them made contact. Lando holding his position in bits, and there was no position changes, but it looked like great action there. All 3 of them giving each other enough space and going to that corner, not a single contact. Brilliant racing between the 3 of them.
Nick was almost pushing the gearbox of Royal Harvey through the middle part of that lap, but he's dropped back slightly as we start lap 13, so he's not quite close enough, although he might be now with the DRS, to make a move for the lead of this race, and he is absolutely flying down the straight.
On the inside,
and
he's going to take it.
Nick round the outside. Looks like he'll get better traction as well, and yes, although Royal Harvey does have the DRS himself, and he's going to try and come back at Nick down the inside. Nick not leaving a lot of room on the inside, but it was just enough. Royal Harvey down the inside, and he's taken it back. Great racing.
Player has spun around to turn 3. We've got a virtual safety car. No retirements, but we do have a virtual safety car. Slayer dropping from, I think, what was P6 down to P11 and has spun through turn 3. Didn't see what happened, but has now dropped 6 places on the soft tyres, but they are 5 laps old, so he'll be running them 10 laps deep. He's got wing damage, so he's definitely going to be pitting. He's got no front wing whatsoever, so he's going to be pitting, which will more than likely end his race, putting him at the back. Unfortunate there for Nick Slayer. That was some good hard racing.
That's really going to play into the hands of Harvey as well. I think the Slayer is his main rival in the championship, but we're back to green, and Nick got a great launch off the end of that virtual safety car, and he has taken the lead of the race. And Royal Harvey was very sideways coming off the exit of turn 3, and that has given Nick enough of a gap to make sure that he will stay in the lead coming through turn 4. So Nick in the Ferrari leads the Grand Prix. We've got 4 laps to go, and yep, looks like Jay Sarge and Munram having a battle as well, Pete.
Yeah, they are. I saw out of turn 3, Jay Sarge actually got past Lando, but outbroke himself going wide of turn 3. leaving him very susceptible to Mumran and Chappie, but did very well to hold off the challenges from both of them. And driving on 8 lap hold soft, one must wonder if he's going to be able to hold this for much longer. Lando now extending his leads over Sarge, over a second behind, and it appears Nick is starting to really pull away from Will Harvey. Obviously DRS open now for Will Harvey, but before that I've already gained 8 tenths in that lap. This is going to be a very interesting battle between Nick and Royal.
We've got a couple of drive-through penalties just in the background. I think that was Ballux and Infamous having drive-throughs, but also we've got Dacuna and Aces going side by side. They were side by side in turn 1 and on the straight down to turn 3. Dacuna stays ahead for the time being, but Aces with the DRS might be able to come back at him into turn 4. He's going to have a look down the inside. Oh, and that's very deep.
Oh, I thought there was going to be contact there.
I think there was a bit of contact, but luckily they were both able to keep it pointing in the right direction. And crucially for Dacuna, he has held on to 7th position. I think those soft tyres are working really well for him. He's made up quite a few positions in this stint, but now he is 6 seconds adrift of Mumran, and Chappie actually has got ahead of Mumran finally.
I think unfortunately for Dacuna, he's got some work to do. He's got 3 laps to gain, and currently the 3 drivers behind him do not have penalties. Dacuna has 9 seconds of penalties added up on him. He's got a lot of work to do to try and, well, I reckon he will get a points position as Serious Mushroom goes around the outside of Ballux into turn 3. Who's going to hold Serious around the outside, and a brilliant move to overtake Ballux for theoretically 9th position on the track. Great move there by Serious Mushroom as he starts to close towards Aces, just half a second behind Aces going into turn 4. This will be an interesting battle for what effectively I think will be 7th. Obviously Dacuna is not going to be able to gain 9 seconds into 3 laps unless something tragically goes wrong for Aces, Serious and Ballux. But this looks like it's going to be a very heated battle for that position between Aces, Serious and Ballux, if Ballux can get back onto the train.
Interestingly, the battle for the lead between Nick and Harvey. Nick took the lead, but he's not really been pulling away, and Nick also has a 3-second time penalty, so Harvey in a sense doesn't really need to do anything here. He doesn't have to go for the lead, but he is anyway on the outside of turn 4. There was definitely some wheel banging there, and Nick firmly slamming the door in the face of the Renault behind.
We've got G-Mac off. G-Mac has spun round up, just out of turn 1, dropping him down to 17th on the grid.
Chappie
has
Chappie. Oh, and J Sarge has gone off, and that has allowed Chappie and Mumran to get ahead of him. Chappie was on the back of J Sarge for a few laps there, and seemingly couldn't really do anything about the Haas driver, but then a mistake from Sarge. He is on 11 lap old softs, so they must be getting pretty worse for wear at this point. But that's allowed Chappie and Mumran up into 4th and 5th as we're on the final lap of the Austrian Grand Prix. Nick and Royal Harvey still only separated by a few tenths of a second, but Harvey, as long as he doesn't get a penalty on the final lap, should be set to take the victory.
I'm watching currently the battle for the lower points playing positions, because we've got, obviously taking into account, we've got Scientist in 12th, who looks very likely to take a points position. We will see. It's going to be very, very close. He is currently 3.2 seconds behind Ballux, with Ballux having a 3-second penalty. He will get past Infamous, who's got 12 seconds of penalties, but let's see.
Meanwhile, at the front, Nick and Royal Harvey have come round the final corner. Nick takes the checkered flag and smashes into the wall as he does so, but Royal Harvey wins the race on fewer penalties, or no penalties in his case. Lando Bot finishes P3. He also didn't have any penalties. And then Chappie, Mumram and J Sarge, who's just jumped up there. Serious Mushroom up into P5, taking advantage of drivers
No
ahead of
penalties.
him having penalties.
Hmm.
So that was quite an interesting race, you'd have to say. A few battles going on, and interestingly, Harvey and Nick, probably one of the first times we've seen those two going head to head, battling at the front of the grid, and it was Nick who came out in front on track, but due to penalties, Royal Harvey was the one to come out on top and take the victory, and that will give him a major boost in the championship. He already has a big lead, but he will have extended that even further with this result.
Yeah, brilliant driving there by Royal Harvey. That now takes him up to 220 points, with his nearest rival Slayer not scoring today, so that's going to give him an advantage already of 66 points. 76 points over Slayer. Brilliant driving there by the guys. I'm just updating now the results to kind of get an up-to-date league table. So if you want to do some comms, Nev, just on the race, that would be great.
Yeah, well, we'll just run through the race results. So Royal Harvey taking the win, started second, finishing in first. Then Nick in P2, Lando Bot in third, Chappie fourth, Cirrus Mushroom fifth place, benefiting from not having penalties. Mumran in sixth, Aces 7th, up from 16th, so that's a good result for him. Ballux started 8th and finished 8th. He was running quite well actually at one point in that race, but had a drive-through penalty after the VSC which dropped him back. Scientist in 9th, and Jay Sarge rounding out the points in 10th place. Unfortunately, he had quite a lot of penalties that dropped him back. So now we're going to have obviously the reverse grid, and we're going to see Royal Harvey starting at the back with Nick alongside him in second to last position. So I think they will be in P18 and P19, and we will have, I believe, the Slayer on pole position. So now he has a chance to close up the gap to Royal Harvey, which Harvey has just extended by 25 points.
We're up to 230, the gap being 76 points between the two of them now.
So we're on round 18 now of the championship, and I would have thought that we now have 5 races remaining in the season, including this one.
Yep.
So that's a total of 125 points on offer, although actually with the fastest lap points as well, that rises to 130. So
and for driver of the day, another 5, so technically 135, but...
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So it's not out of reach yet for the Slayer, but he's rapidly running out of time to do anything about the lead that Harvey has. And of course the tricky thing with the reverse grid, Pete, is that, you know, if you have a really good result and win a race, you get the points for it, but then you start near the back for the next race. So to consistently outscore a rival is very difficult, especially now as we come to a track like Hungary, where it's very difficult to overtake.
Like you said earlier, Hungary is nicknamed Monaco without the barriers. I mean, it is an incredibly difficult track to overtake on. I mean, when you look at most of the wins over the last few years, they have come from either the front grid or the front 2 grids. I think the only time in my memory of a driver battling from the back to take a victory, obviously in real life, was Nigel Mansell, who in 1987 took the checker flag from 12th on the grid, beating Ayrton Senna to second. I don't remember watching the race, but I have seen the highlights since, and what a race that was. Mansell going up the inside of Senna, I believe it was coming into turn 1 to take the victory from him. So yeah, this is going to be really interesting for the likes of Harvey, for the likes of Nick and Lando to get back up. Looking at the updated league table, the battle for 4th is now a 5-man street. You've got, wow, literally 4 points separate 5 people. You've got Jay Sarge, who's on 113, with Infamous and Balix tied on 111, and Lando and Nick tied on 109. Obviously, this is a good chance for Infamous to catch up some points because he did finish towards the back of the grid, and now so that will allow him to start towards the front on what is, like we said, a very difficult track to overtake on.
Just want to say thank you to everyone watching this stream tonight, and it's worth mentioning as well, I don't know if I said this before, but we are both commentators streaming our perspectives tonight for this race. So myself and Pete, we're both running a stream right now, so if you want to get a slightly different perspective of the battles, then feel free to check out both of our streams, and also leave a like if you're enjoying, and a comment on the racing, how you think the Austrian Grand Prix went and what you expect to happen in the Hungarian race, which is shortly to follow. We're just waiting for the grid to be arranged for the race at Hungary. I know from experience it does take a little bit of time to set these things up before we will be racing for the second time tonight at the Hungaroring, which Pete was talking about before.
Yeah, and guys, if you are watching and you're enjoying the comms, please feel free to leave a comment. It is, I mean, I'm sure it's the same for them. It's always nice to hear what we're putting in is of value to the races. So feel free to watch, comment, subscribe to our channels. Would be really appreciated. And any feedback, yep, I will happily take it. I'm still new to this. So yeah, if anyone has any feedback or any comments, please feel free to get in touch and let us know. I think I am really looking forward to this race. I mean, obviously, we've got a lot of high-class drivers here, so it's going to be one of those seeing who does make the mistakes, who doesn't. Yeah, like I said, I'm really looking forward to this race.
We could see penalties play a factor once again. We seem to say it every single race that we see, but yeah. The Hungaroring is actually a track where you could build up quite a few penalties. I'm just thinking about the chicane in the middle sector, the slow speed right-left, where those curbs are potentially quite attackable, I guess you could say. So we could see some corner cutting there. And then into the third sector, the fast right-hander. Actually, it's the end of the second sector, but the fast right-hander is another point where corner cutting and also track extending on the exit could be a factor for these drivers.
I think that chicane you mentioned in sector 2, turn 6 and 7, not just forgetting, obviously corner cutting is going to be paramount and something very easily done there. I tend to find when I'm coming out of these corners, hitting the throttle just a fraction too early, you're going to spin it out. I thank God for ghosting, but spin it out at this track, and I reckon that's race bye-bye, because it's going to be close, it's going to be tight, and it's not going to be easy overtaking, that is for sure. So
no, and actually I listed those corners, but I forgot the main offender actually for corner cutting around here, which is turn 4, because it's a fast left-hand turn, and it's actually a blind entry because you're going uphill. You don't necessarily know when to turn in, so that's also going to be very challenging for the drivers. But if you do get it right through there, you can gain a lot of time, so it will certainly test out the skill of these tier 1 drivers.
This might sound bad, I was really praying for rain just to make it that bit more interesting. As if this won't be as interesting. Already interesting. I was just kind of praying for rain just to see how the drivers cope with it, but another dry race, so in for some very sturdy, fast-paced technical action from the drivers, which is always something to look forward to. I think obviously different weather tests, different skills, and but either way, all these drivers are so talented in racing that it's always going to be a good race watching them. So,
well, I mean, it's not raining at the moment, but it does look quite overcast, and if we remember back to Singapore last week, it's definitely quite dark out there. And if we do remember back to Singapore last week, it was a dry race, but it did start to rain towards the end, and we had a late safety car which ended with Royal Harvey and Mumram, I believe, pitting for the
Yep.
intermediates, which ended up being the wrong choice. You know, hindsight's a
John
wonderful
Banter
thing.
did as well. John Banter as well.
Yeah, so both Red Bulls, in fact. So don't rule out the possibility of rain just yet. It doesn't tend to rain a huge amount at this track. They didn't have a wet race at the Hungaroring until 2006, I remember. Jenson
Yep,
Button
that
won
was
his
the
first
first.
Grand Prix.
Yep, that was the first one after it debuted actually the year I was born, 1986. So 20 years dry, and then yeah, like you said, first wet weather race and first win for Jenson Button. It's also been the scene of a couple of other highlights which I found. Obviously Damon Hill back in the 1997 campaign, having lost his seat at Williams as world champion, taking the Arrows car all the way to second. Would have been first had it not been for a hydraulics failure, whilst 35 seconds ahead of second place at the time, Jacques Villeneuve, who took it. And it was also the scene of Heikki Kovalainen's only victory in 2008, where stated, driving in the McLaren, he took the checkered flag for his one and only race win that in his Formula One career.
Just looking at the starting grid, noticing that Scientist is actually in last place behind Harvey and Nick, so I don't know if Scientist DNF'd in Austria. We must have missed that one, but he will be right at the back of the grid on the medium tyres. But up at the front, it's the Slayer on pole position with a chance to make up some ground on Royal Harvey in the championship battle. He is a long way behind, but you never know what's going to happen in Grand Prix racing. So the Slayer's just got to get his head down and do the best job he can and try to recover this difference, as the drivers at the back of the grid just getting formed up on the grid, and I have an absolutely terrible camera angle which I can't seem to get out of at the back, but hopefully once we get ready for the lights that will change and I will be able to see. Yep, so 5 red lights in Hungary, and we are underway for the second race of the evening at the Hungaroring. The leaderboard has gone crazy immediately, but I can tell you that the Slayer is holding on, although he's got the Red Bull of John Banter having a look down the inside. We've got a few ghosted cars as well, and Slayer side by side with John Banter as they come towards turn 2. The Slayer's gone incredibly deep, and John Banter has managed to get through on the inside to take the lead of the Grand Prix, and the Slayer with his teammate Twitch just behind him in third place. And well, he's going to have some work to do now to try to regain the lead from John Banter.
Brilliant start by Nick, already up 8 places from 17th into the points in 9th. We have got a yellow flag, Aces versus Kings. Looks like he's lost it coming out of turn 5 into 6.
So Nick all the way up into P9 already, and leaving Royal Harvey in the dust down in P15. So Nick with an absolutely storming start to this race, and potentially with slower drivers ahead of him, so that's really going to open up some opportunities for him. The Slayer, well, I thought it looked like the Slayer was overtaking John Banter, but it actually might be Twitch overtaking Slayer instead.
Yeah.
And we've still got a few ghosted cars here, which is making things a bit tricky to tell quite what's going on at the moment. But Nick is up into P8 now. He's overtaken Mumram. Oh, and Royal Harvey has left the session.
Whoa.
The championship leader.
His connection must have dropped.
Yeah, it must be a connection issue, because he's still in P15. He's not had any obvious dramas that would make him want to rage quit, but now his AI controlled car is giving up positions to Mosher, Scientist, Serious Mushroom. They're just able to drive right through him because of the ghosting. and Aces will surely be able to overtake Royal Harvey for P18 in the
Got Nick,
not too
who's
distant
gone up
future as
past
well.
Infamous around the outside of turn 13. Brilliant move there, and we've got Infamous in the pits. He must have front wing damage.
J Sarge is alongside
Nick.
Desert Rat in the Williams, going for P3, and late braking into turn 1.
G-Mac.
Desert Rat still there alongside, and we'll have to see who brakes later into this next corner. And J Sarge did brake later, but Desert Rat still getting a better exit, although now he's had to back out of it. So J Sarge up into 3rd place.
Nick really smashing this, already up into 5th. Last lap up in 8th, already up to 5th. Obviously Infamous has pitted, but great progression here by Nick, making easy work of getting past everybody and very quickly catching up onto Desert Rat for the battle for 4th.
J Sarge going past John Banter for 3rd place, for 2nd place rather. John Banter really struggling here. He's gone super wide, and I actually before saw him. He went wide at the chicane as well, just completely cut the chicane, and there was some front wing debris on the track as well. I'm not sure whose that was, but John Banter dropping back, and now he has got Nick right behind him. Nick, who started in P17 and has made up 13 positions so far in this Grand Prix. He's about to make it 14. I would have thought he has got ahead of John Banter for 3rd. So lap 4. What a drive already from Nick.
Yeah, already contender for driver of the day, really, isn't he? We seem to have Twitch, who's struggling. I think as well, Royal Harvey seems to be back. His car doesn't appear to be ghosted anymore and is now up to 13th. But Twitch does look like he's struggling down there in 19th place. Has come off twice. He's lost his front wing, so he'll be pitting now for new wing, and I'm presuming he will be switching to the medium tyres as he is currently on the hards. Nearly making a meal of it going into the barriers there. Moving up.
Oh, and Nick late braking and nearly losing it into the back of J Sarge, but he's survived. Twitch is out of the race. I think he's retired in the pit lane.
Yeah, he retired in the pit lane, yeah. This battle, this train going on behind GMAC, wow. I mean, you've got 4th through 10th separated maybe by 2.5 seconds. This is going to be an amazing battle coming in over the next few laps. We've got a mixture of tyres with GMAC, Ryan and Balex on the mediums, Chappie, Lando, John and Mumran on the softs. This is going to be one heck of a battle.
Oh, and Ryan down the inside of Mumran for P8. That was a bit of a dive bomb, to be perfectly honest. He pushed Mumran out of the way, but Ryan up into P8, and Landobot passed John Banter for 5th as well.
Watching Chappie on the back of John Banter, seems to have gone a bit wide there, but still only half a second, closing ever more through the chicane. Right on his gearbox, both of them running wide out of turn 9.
Nick
and
still
Chappie
on the back of J Sarge as well.
Oh, I thought there was going to be contact there. We've got Ryan Van Doon coming up around the outside. Nope, Chappie closes the door. We've got a yellow flag. It's Balex is off. Balex is off. Coming out of turn 12. Can't see if he has wing damage, but by his driving I'm going to presume so. Nope, he's staying out. He must not have any wing damage, which is fortunate. Otherwise he would be switching on to the hard tyres for the rest of the race.
J Sarge just pitted as well.
Yep.
An early stop from the mediums. He's had a wing change, and he's also gone for the hards, so he's going to try and stick with the one stop. I don't know when he had that damage, but he's emerging towards the back of the field, and that's released Nick. And the Slayer actually has built up a 5-second lead with everything going on behind him. He's on the medium tyres as well, so That's a great advantage to have at this stage of the race. He'll be able to switch onto the soft tyres in a few laps' time, and then have a tyre advantage over Nick, who will have to switch to a slower compound, probably the mediums. But
Yeah.
yep, great opportunity this for the Slayer, especially with Royal Harvey. Although Royal Harvey is now back up in P11, but I think he's still a ghost car, so he has not rejoined.
Let's have a look. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't think he is.
Well, the reason I say that is just because you can tell from the onboard that he is a ghost. Even though there's no one near him, he is still driving a ghost car, which could only really mean that he's being AI controlled.
Yeah, sorry, now I've only been using the broadcast camera type. I've not been using the TV. But yeah, no, looking at it, it's absolutely right.
Chappie and Ryan going toe to toe. Chappie in P3, Ryan in P4. I'm not sure if that was an overtake by Chappie or if he was just holding on to position. Ryan didn't get a great run there through turn 4, and he looks like he's struggling a bit on the medium tyres as well. Nick actually made his pit stop in amongst all of that, so he's re-emerged in, well, he's in 8th now. He just went past Royal Harvey, so he's on fresh mediums, trying maybe to get a bit of an undercut on the Slayer to try and close the gap and see if he can do anything about the Alfa Romeo in the later stages of this Grand Prix.
I'm currently watching the battle for what is 13th position between Mumran and Jay Sarge, both pitted last lap, and Mumran on the softs, Jay Sarge choosing the hards. I'm not sure that was the right choice. I don't think the mediums would suffer too much deg at this stage, or if my memory serves me correctly, he was already on the mediums. That's probably why he chose the hards.
He was on the mediums, and he had wing damage as well, so he was forced into that decision, I believe.
Yeah. We got Mumran really closing up on his teammate John Banter, going to the inside. Oh, that was close. Was that a bit of a dive there? I think so, but didn't make a connection with John, and John held 11th place from Mumran, so no harm, no foul. Could be an interesting one though. Infamous picking up a 3-second penalty. Let's look at the penalty situation. Infamous in 9th on 6 seconds. John Banter with 9 seconds of penalties. That's really going to play into the hands of those below him. And you've got a few 3-second penalties for Jay Sarge, Dikuna, Musha and Desert Rat. However, top 8, not a single penalty yet. Some very disciplined driving. I know how easy it is to corner cut, even just as slight as we were discussing at the start of the race.
Yep, and a lot of those guys, the top 6 in fact, started this race on mediums, which they are still on, so that's another factor to take into account, as Nick setting the fastest lap at 1:17.202. Not sure how that compares with the Slayer's pace at the moment. If we can just see what his fastest lap is, an 18.1 is the fastest lap for the Slayer, and I can guarantee he'll be lapping slower than that at the moment. So Nick will be closing in. Whether he closes in enough to overturn the 5-second deficit that there was between those two is probably doubtful, but there's still probably 2 or 3 laps left in this stint for the Slayer, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
I'm just on board with Slayer now to see what sort of times he's setting compared to Nick. They're just about to come over the start finish line now, and he sets a 1:18.58. So let's see what Nick is doing.
Well, Nick's going to be slowed down a bit here because he's catching up to Ballocks and Aces, who are on 8-lap-old medium tyres. Nick's at the back of this queue now, so that's going to be slowing him down quite a bit. He will have DRS, but so does Ballocks ahead of him. Ballocks looking to make a move into turn 1 past Aces for P5, And where is Aces? He's still there on the inside. He's managed to hold on. Balix will have DRS again coming down towards turn 3. He's going to have to make a lunge down the inside. Goodness me, that was close. And Nick right in the thick of it as well. Aces and Balix going side by side down towards turn 4. Someone's going to have to yield here. Bit of a corner cut from Balix. Oh, and Nick nearly into the back of him as well. This is great action at the Hungaroring.
You were right about Nick obviously being held up by them too. Their previous lap times between Slayer and Nick, only 0.3 of a second difference in Nick's favour. So, has the undercut work? He's going to have to make some moves. He's got to shift these too quickly, or the undercut is not going to work for him.
Well, we're absolutely seeing what we were talking about before the race of how difficult it is to overtake here, because oh, and a big slide there for Nick. We saw Balix there. He had DRS twice, and he's actually pitted Balix while I say that, so that moves Nick up into 6th. But yeah, Balix had DRS twice on Aces, and he was unable to make the move for what was 5th place. But now Nick is in the DRS of Aces, and he might be looking to have a go into turn 2. I don't think he's quite close enough though. No. He's going to have to bide his time.
In my previous races with Aces, he is notoriously hard to overtake. His positioning of his car just is perfect, even when he's running on worn tyres. And just looking at his position there into turn 4, fantastic defending there by Aces, and one of the reasons he is so high up in our league. He is, if my maths is correctly, he's in 9th position in the league, so his driving is definitely justified. He's driving brilliantly to hold off Nick, who is really looking to make this move, needs to make this move. We have got Slayer in the pits now though, so let's see what the gap's
Nick going down the inside, possibly. No, he backs out of that. That looked like it was going to be a... Yeah, it looked like that might have been a bit of a lunge, but he was able to rein it in. And now Ace is into the pits. That releases Nick, but the Slayer is at the end of the pit lane, and he is going to hold on to the lead.
But Nick has closed him. He has closed him. He's only a few seconds behind, but Slayer is now going to be on the softs, I'm presuming. Yeah, fresh softs. I think it's simply a case now for Slayer. Keep it safe, driving like he has been, no mistakes. This race is, but like we said with the Hungarian, anything can happen, and it usually does. So let's see how this pans out.
And we've still got Royal Harvey at the back in P18. Twitch is our only retirement so far from this race. He retired in the pits earlier on. Royal Harvey disconnecting from the race. I think he's still ghosted. Yeah, he is still a ghost car, so he's not driving that Renault, and it's going to give the Slayer a chance to, well, basically get back to where we were before tonight's races started, because I think Royal Harvey won the first race whilst the Slayer didn't score any points, and now we're going to see probably the reverse of that as GMAC pits. He was in the lead on 12 lap old mediums.
Able to get the fastest lap as well. So I mean, I know it's only a point, but championships have been won by a point in the past, haven't they? So you never know. Yeah,
Nick's still going very quickly, setting another fastest lap, 17.0, but this will be the lap to find out what the Slayer's pace is like on these fresh softs. His first flying lap with the fresh rubber. Balix does a 16.5 on the softs, so that's possibly indicative of the pace difference between the softs and the mediums.
Slayer already half a second up on his personal best just in the first sector alone. I think this is going to be official lap.
Yeah, we'll just ride on board with him here for the rest of this lap. He's sort of midway through the second sector at the moment.
If you do that, I'll watch the battle for fourth between Infamous, Chappie and GMAC.
Yep.
Chappie was right on the gearbox of Infamous. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2. It looks like Aces has come off.
Now we've got the Slayer just coming up to the line here, and that is the fastest lap of the race at 1:16.332
Wow.
for the Alfa Romeo driver. His lead over Nick is now 5 seconds, so as long as the Slayer doesn't do anything crazy in these final few laps,
We got
like
G-Mac
rack up the
on
penalties, he should be
We've
fine.
got Chappie diving on the inside of G-Mac for 6th position. For 5th position, G-Mac holds the place. Brilliant driving there. And now G-Mac starts to attack Infamous into turn 3. Sorry, turn 2. G-Mac on the much fresher soft. He has just pitted. And Balix is gone. Balix is out. We've got a virtual safety car.
Yeah, so that's... Well, if that had been a full safety car, it would have been a really interesting end to this race, but the virtual safety car will just neutralise things for about a lap or so. So no problems for the Slayer at the front. It's just going to take some time out of the race, essentially. There will be 4 laps left at the end of this current lap.
So what do you think about, obviously the virtual safety car it's not new technology, but it is obviously relatively new. What do you think about it? I mean, I think I'm very pro for it, because could you imagine if we did have a safety car now, it would make it very tight and interesting for the last couple of laps, but the hard work put in by these drivers, is that fair? I'm not sure what you think, but I'm definitely a huge fan of the VSC as we go racing again.
Well, the only thing I think as a driver, I say more than a spectator, because obviously as a spectator the safety of the drivers is of the utmost importance, but as a driver it can be quite a tactical tool as well, because if you are coming up to a pit stop window and then the VSC comes out at the right time, it can give you a massive advantage, because everyone else is driving a lot slower whilst you're pitting. So it's obviously great for safety, but also it adds an extra tactical element to the races that didn't exist before. I mean, we had safety cars, but now we have the VSC as well, which drivers can use to their advantage.
I'm currently watching G-Mac in 4th now. He got past Infamous into turn 2 of the lap. It's already 1.2 seconds ahead of him. Catching up to Lango, do you reckon it's possible? He's 4.5 seconds behind with 3 and a bit laps to go. I think it's going to be
It's possible. It's definitely possible, but as we've said before, the overtaking factor around here is the really challenging part at the Hungaroring, and I know Lando's very consistent. He's finished on the podium. He finished on the podium in Austria, and he's on course to do the same again here, so he's been driving really well also. And actually, just thinking, the Mercedes have done quite well in this race to be 4th and 5th, although actually G-Mac started in 3rd, so he's dropped back a little, and Infamous has only gained 1 place, so really it's about on par with where they started, but still good to see them up there doing well.
Nick has gained, I'm looking at the ups and downs in terms of drivers' positions. Lando has gained 13 places from the starting of 16th, and Nick has gained 15 from the start of 17th. I mean, that's just, to quote what I was saying earlier, that's a Nigel Mansell performance. Got it written all over, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, then for Nick, he'll just probably be wishing that this was a 50% race distance rather than 25, because now he's in P2, but he doesn't really have the time to do anything about the Slayer ahead of him. We've got a yellow flag in Sector 2 again, although actually that's just cleared, so no danger there. Now in Sector 1, and Aces has retired. He was not having a good race at all. Had a few spins and was down in P17 or P16. So he's now out of the race, and these drivers are coming into that yellow flag zone at the moment. So just on board here with Ryan behind Chappie and Infamous. No overtaking possible during the yellow flag, although Ryan's going to have a go anyway. I don't know if they were in the green flag zone at that point. They might well have been. So now Ryan closing in on Infamous for P5. I remember Ryan, I think he's a reserve driver. He was in the Renault last week and he actually won at Baku. So that was a good drive from him, and showing some good pace again in the latter stages of this race.
I've noticed that GMAC has been unable to close the gap to Lando, so you'd definitely appear right. I think Lando will be picking up his second podium of the weekend. Brilliant driving by them. For me, I think I'm very interested in the battle for 10th. We've got Dearest Mushroom, who is 2.5 seconds behind Dakuna, but no penalties. Dakuna carrying 6 seconds.
We've also got Ryan going past Infamous for P5 with the aid of DRS, although Infamous not giving up easily, but Ryan's got it done. He's into 5th place.
Yeah, that's not anything I'd expect of Infamous. He's a very clean, very skilled driver. Knows when to hold it, knows when to fold it, and knows when to attack. So good driving there. And obviously not going to just give up the position. We are racing at the end of the day, so it's very entertaining to watch that. Where is our race leader?
He's just coming up to the final few corners. The Slayer with a 5.4 second advantage over Nick. Beautifully managed race. You'd have to say zero dramas at the front for the man in the Alfa Romeo who weaves across the finish line and takes the checkered flag, winning the Hungarian Grand Prix, and Nick once again smashing into the wall over the finish line to, I guess, convey his frustration, I suppose, at not winning that race, but still a fantastic drive from the Ferrari.
We've got Demolition Derby at the finish line with the house and the Ferrari smashed into.
Oh yeah, just on board with Dakuna and Jay Sarge. Oh, how many cars gone off there? Like 3 or 4?
3. 2 houses and a Ferrari.
So I don't think the
They
team...
decided to play Demolition Derby with each other.
I don't think the team bosses will thank the drivers too much for that, for the repair job.
No, exactly.
Ahead of next week. That will possibly be a few $1 million down the drain for those teams.
Yeah, but you got to have a bit of fun, right? That would be their argument.
Got to live a little.
Wow. Yes, exactly.
And that concludes the race. We were just waiting for Royal Harvey to cross the line, but the race finished before he could do so. And, well, I guess ultimately it's still a pretty good day for Royal Harvey. I mean, he'll be disappointed not to have had the chance to race in the second race tonight, but he still managed to pretty much maintain his championship lead. I think the Slayer did get the fastest lap in the end, so the Slayer will have closed in by a point overall across the 2 races, but still a big lead for Royal Harvey.
And who am I looking at? Lando clearly going now into 4th position. He's going to be on 124 points. So Lando firmly moving into 4th position. Scientist unable to score in this race, so only 16 points behind Scientists for 3rd position. So that's going to be an interesting battle going into next week to see which one of the 2 will be able to either take or hold 3rd position, I think.
So we'll just run through the finishing results quickly here, or at least for the top 10. The Slayer finishing as the winner, ahead of Nick. Nick finishing 2nd in both races tonight. Lando Bot in P3 once again. GMAC in 4th from Ryan in 5th. Chappie in 6th. Infamous in 7th. Then J Sarge in 8th. Mumrant in 9th. Serious Mushroom in P10. And Scientist just finishing outside the points in P11. I thought that I was going to get timed out there, but I haven't been, so we'll carry on. Dakuna in 12th. Desert Rat in 13th. Mosher in 14th, John Banter in 15th, Royal Harvey 16th and a lap down, and then we had 3 retirements, Aces, Ballocks and Twitch, all DNFing from that race.
It's unfortunate for Scientists, only 0.3 of a second out of the points. Absolutely gutted for him. Obviously, you would have hoped on his return, not taking last week off, he would have been able to make a play up to stay, but that's why. I'm going to hand over to you now, Nev, so you can say your final bits.
Yeah, so again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Obviously, we had both of our perspectives being streamed, so hopefully, whichever one you were watching, you enjoyed the action. And we will be back next week, obviously, for rounds 19 and 20. I'm not sure just yet where those are, but we imagine that Royal Harvey will be closing in on the championship, and potentially he could wrap it all up by the time we're done next week. But yep, again, thank you for joining us, and thank you as well to Pete for joining me once again.
Thank you, Nev. I mean, it's always great commentating alongside you. I'm glad this week I had no issues with my connection, so we were both able to fully enjoy the action and assist, and I was able to assist you fully. So thank you once again for having me, and I look forward to joining you when the opportunity next presents itself. So everyone, I hope you've enjoyed watching rounds 17 and 18 of the Scientist Reverse Grid League for Tier 1. Wish you all a good night and hope you've enjoyed the action. Have a good night, everybody.
Yep, and we look forward to seeing you next week for rounds 19 and 20, but until then, take care.